So coming up to our third award. The third award is the Game Changer. So please welcome David Redmond from Proofpoint to present that award. Devin. Sorry, Devin. Apologize. Thanks. I said Damon? Devin.
Thank you, Geoffrey. It's a pleasure to be here. What a fantastic night. I almost forgot I had to come up and do an introduction because I was so enthralled in the conversations. Let me introduce myself, Devin Redmond. I'm the co-founder and GM of Nextgate Social Media Security and Compliance, which is a division of Proofpoint. But what I want to start by saying is not all products and services are created equal. Some are nice to have, and some so significantly change the world that you can't imagine how it was before them. Today, the way we work, it's impossible to imagine our business lives without social networking. So when you think about that, what we try to bring to that environment is help companies embrace social networking, drive their adoption and growth, but still retain the security and compliance that they have to have in order to drive that adoption. It's the terrific kind of synergy around what we do in the marketplace around driving that security and compliance with our customers and partners that makes it such a pleasure to present this award. This award goes to a company that really fundamentally changes the way we work today in environments today. It changes the way professionals connect. It changes the way professionals become productive and successful out there. And it does that in a way that really allows us to drive a more personal connection across all of the people that we've worked with in those environments. So the most important thing to think about this is that this product and technology and this award goes to a company that's created an indispensable innovation around both technology and business. With that, I would like to present the 2015 Game Changer Award to LinkedIn. Accepting that on behalf of LinkedIn is Alan Blue. Joining Alan, it's going to be Susan Lund.
Over here.
Joining Alan will be Susan Lund.
Alan, it's a pleasure to be here tonight with you. LinkedIn has truly been game-changing. It's changed the way people look for a job, think about their careers, build professional, not just social networks. If you think back to when the internet was taking hold 20, 25 years ago, the first big innovation was newspaper want ads went online. So we had Monster.com, we had job aggregators, but it was still employers listing a job looking for somebody. And then you and some others came along in 2003, and you turned that on its head. So you said, let's get people to put their resumes online. Instead of people searching for jobs, let's have the jobs go search for the people. And that has been truly game-changing. I'm an economist by training. This has changed the efficiency of labor markets. It's added transparency. It's added all sorts of good attributes to how this very messy historical process of how people go about finding jobs. Earlier this year, the McKinsey Global Institute collaborated with LinkedIn on some research. And we calculated that in 10 years' time, it's possible that LinkedIn and other platforms like it could raise global GDP by $2.7 trillion per year, nearly 2%, and it could change and improve the job outcomes for 540 million people around the world every year. So that's game-changing. There's no going back, as this award was saying. LinkedIn itself, of course, has gone from a couple of guys sitting around in Reid Hoffman's living room to a company with a market cap of $26 billion. You've got nearly 400 million people around the world have now posted their profiles. It's 200 countries, 24 languages, and according to your own website, the company is growing by 2 new users every second. Now, you could be resting on your laurels, but LinkedIn is not done innovating, which is one of the amazing things about the company. You have new horizons and goals. The economic graph that was launched last year is the next big vision for LinkedIn. And this year in 2015, you've started working with cities around the United States to put more disadvantaged people to work. Mm-hmm. So let me start with the first question. Alan, tell us about the vision that led you and others to create LinkedIn and that's guided you for the 10 plus years of LinkedIn's existence.
Sure. So when we started LinkedIn, excuse me, we had in mind ourselves. So when we started the business, we were entrepreneurs, and we basically built LinkedIn so that anybody in the world could have a social network as powerful and effective as any entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. That was the basic vision behind it, and we fully expected that, excuse me, the professionals were going to come and use LinkedIn on a regular basis to do almost anything they wanted to do in their professional lives, from hire, which has been a big use case for us, but also to get information, to build sales, to create opportunities, basically to do everything which is part of the world of career and work.
So what have been some of the challenges? You started out as a Silicon Valley company, and then it expanded across the U.S. A lot of professionals use it, but today you're expanding all over the world, emerging markets. You're expanding across industries beyond the Silicon Valley professionals. And what have been some of the challenges as the company has grown to be a truly global, cross-industry company?
Well, as we've grown, we've discovered what we don't know. So we've come into places where basically we don't really have a clear idea of what a particular audience needs or what a particular type of professional cares about. We can say with great confidence what a professional cares about here in Silicon Valley, and we can even say with pretty good confidence what one wants in New York or maybe Berlin, but we can't say what a pipe fitter wants in Shanghai. We just don't have knowledge about what that is yet. So as we grow and as more people come into the network, we learn more and more about the world of work.
Yeah. And how is the world of work changing?
It's changing so quickly. Let me give you an example. About 30 years ago, this is it's about 30 years ago, maybe even a little longer than that. Basically, the purchasing power, the economic power of somebody who's working in the manufacturing industry in the U.S. basically came to its historical peak. So if you were working in a factory, basically you made as much money, you had as much ability to control your own destiny in 1974 as you have today, which is a pretty remarkable thing. Through the forces of globalization and technology, it's changed that whole picture for a gigantic collection of the people who work today. Those forces have basically created a quickly accelerating professional and technical class and huge service industries with a huge gap in between them. We talk about the skills gap. We talk about the possibilities that there are people out there who aren't ready to jump into the world of work. It's a real thing. And that's one of the major forces that we see out there, which has changed the way the economy and certainly the way it affects people's lives in the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the comments at the beginning of this program was about companies starting to think about return on human capital rather than invested capital. One of the striking things in the research that we did together was a survey of LinkedIn members around the world, asking people if they felt like their current employment had them engaged and challenged and was fully utilizing their capabilities. Mm-hmm. And almost a majority of people in every country said no. And that's pretty stunning when you think about the mismatch. And we know from reams of studies of human resources and companies that if people aren't engaged in their work, they don't try hard, they're not productive. Mm-hmm. So today, there are a tremendous amount of people, even employed people, who are simply not engaged in work. How is LinkedIn thinking about trying to change this conundrum?
Well, so LinkedIn, like many of the technologies which have been part of the last 15 years, say, of Internet, have changed the power that any given individual has. Once upon a time, basically, we all worked for a company, and the company kind of had control over what our fate looked like. But having tools in your hands, having your cell phone, which gives you access to so much information that basically, even 20 years ago, the President of the United States didn't have, give you access to payment mechanisms and tools, the individual has become tremendously powerful relative to where they were 10 years ago. This is the promise of the consumer internet. That means that people have expectations they can do that in the world of work. They really believe that they can make choices. They can have opportunities to do what they want, to find something that really works for them. So at LinkedIn, we are always first about helping the individual succeed. Before we're about the company, before we're about the school, the organization, the individual has to come first, because it's the individual who's now writing the rules of the modern economy.
Yeah. It's fascinating. So LinkedIn is sitting on this tremendous amount of data that literally makes my mouth water. One of the interesting things they've done with it in the last year is started to look at university performance of graduates based on where people get jobs. And they've come up with a top 10, top 20 list of places to go if you want to be an accountant or in marketing or in sales or in high tech. And, usually 2 of the top 10 would be the colleges you'd suspect. It's Harvard or Stanford or the like. And then the other 8 are places you would never think about. It's University of Indiana or Kansas or Missouri. What are you doing with some of this data that LinkedIn has to bring transparency to people making choices about careers, career paths, students trying to decide where to go to school, what to invest in?
Yeah, so I think the education stuff is a great example, because we basically started by building up a graph of people, and then we added schools, we added companies, we added skills, we added a ton of things. We call this the economic graph. And when you step back and look at it from a distance, you can tell all kinds of interesting things about the trends that actually make up the economy. And one of them is this idea on a personal basis to be able to say, hey, actually, these are the best schools that I could go choose. So earlier this year, we partnered with New York City and basically are providing them a whole bunch of aggregated data which helps the mayor and his team pick the schools which are producing the best technology results in New York, mechanisms by which they can figure out which skills are actually required in the city. How do they keep more talent there? How should the City University of New York choose its curriculum in terms of the things they actually teach? That kind of information actually makes it possible to make much better and more data-driven choices about how you govern, how you run your company, how you run your school. Those are ways in which we believe we can have some of the impact you were talking about.
Yeah. That's great. Tell us more about what you're doing with the Markle Foundation. They have an initiative called Rework America, and it's about using technology to put disadvantaged people into the workforce and giving them the skills that they need and the jobs. And I know LinkedIn is partnering now with a couple cities and states to try to make this a reality.
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of the challenges we faced over time is, as we've grown, we've gotten more people who are not professionals, but what we call middle skill or high skill workers coming into LinkedIn. And the interesting thing is we've already got employers who are there. When we were talking at the table about Pacific Gas and Electric and a few others who are seeing really major changes in the way they can hire. PG&E thinks that about 50% of their employees are going to retire in the next 10 years. 50%. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they aren't able to bring people in at the entry level anymore because they can't find people with those skills. Alcoa, when we talked to them, said that there are currently 600,000 open jobs in the world of advanced manufacturing. And that number is going to grow to 4 million by 2025. Okay? That is a huge amount of opportunity. And the great thing about it is that every single one of those jobs is a job with a big future. It's not like it's going to a place where you're going to do retail and you may stay that way for the rest of your life. If you become a welder on an oil rig, your starting salary is $100,000 a year, which is a remarkable start for somebody who could theoretically get there quickly right after high school. So what we're doing in Phoenix and Colorado with the Markle Foundation is we're trying to create a system where we can marry education together with jobs so that those people who come out with that high school education not only see the job they might want to take, but also have direct access to the education they need in order to be able to get that job. And we think if we can make it work in those places, we can make it work anywhere. And if we can make it work anywhere, I hope we can finally make some progress on closing that skills gap. Basically by making all of this available and by helping the companies, the schools, and the people work together.
Yeah. It's a powerful vision. When we think about technology and jobs, the first thing most people think about is automation of jobs. We don't have any more jobs. There aren't jobs. And what I love about LinkedIn is this idea that we're bringing technology as part of the solution to making people understand the skills they need, what they need to do, and how to get a career. Let's turn really quickly to you because you have such a unique background.
Yeah.
Alan started out in drama and spent the first couple years of his career in theatrical lighting and set design. Somehow you made it into the tech world, and now you've had this incredible journey seeing LinkedIn from concept to what it's become today. What are the things you're going to take away from this whole experience, besides, of course, the money?
So I think, so one of the amazing things, I know many people in the room have had this experience because a lot of you are entrepreneurs and have done amazing things. But the thing I'm going to take away is that fearlessness, that you can actually go out and do anything. It's actually having gone and built something which is really successful leads you to believe that you could do it, that in fact anybody could do it. So all those fears I know I used to have about, am I going to be able to do something good or something interesting or whatever, I now know it's possible. And I know that, we didn't start with a huge amount, and we were able to make great things, and I know that's possible for anybody. It makes me very optimistic.
Thank you. So let me close. I've been asked to ask you about your call to action. LinkedIn is changing the way people find jobs. It's trying to expand opportunity and make it more clear for what people should do. You've built this incredible company. Everyone in this room we're sitting here in Silicon Valley, tremendous brain power, tremendous energy and drive. What's your call to action to those in this room to actually go out and change the world in a game-changing way?
So I did give this a little bit of thought. That idea that we're trying to make work in Phoenix and Arizona, this idea that basically we could create a kind of a new education system which basically encourages people to go directly out of high school through the training they need and into a great career. Skipping some of the more traditional education which is out there, which isn't really closely aligned with career outcomes. There's a great organization that LinkedIn has worked with really closely. It's called Year Up. Has anybody heard of Year Up? Some of you might have heard Year Up. Year Up is an amazing org. What they do is they take what is termed opportunity youth. In other words, basically kids from high school who don't have a lot of likelihood to go to college. And they put them into a 1-year internship at a tech company. And basically that person becomes an IT specialist during that period of time, during that 1 year up. And then they get hired at an absolutely amazing rate into Silicon Valley. As a matter of fact, right now we've had 60 or 70 of the internships run at LinkedIn. And we've hired 30 of those people to be full-time employees after they actually went through the internship. And the rest of them have become people who work at Facebook, or people who work at Twitter, or people who work at Google. So it's actually been an amazing story. I think that the thing I would call on people here to do, because you all work for companies which can make choices about where you actually hire, is think about some of these alternative mechanisms by which people can find training and work. Think about the Year Up. Think about coding boot camps. Think about interesting new academies, alternative mechanisms for training. Don't always just rely on that bachelor's degree. And when you find a system that works for you, when you find some place that you'd be willing to hire over and over again, like we have with Year Up, you got to tell people about it. Because every time you talk about a system that works, you give that system the reputation it needs to attract students. And every time it attracts students, it produces better results. Every time it produces better results, it produces pressure on an education system to make the whole thing better. So I would start close by with your hiring, say, what could we do out there to maybe try some different paths, some different pathways for people to come work for us? And that can get the ball rolling to a revolution in education.
Okay, and now we come to our final award of the evening.